Okay, hello everyone. I'm thrilled to do that webinar. It's my first time doing a webinar, so excuse for any failures from my side. And where should I start? As I've already used many JetBrains tools, including, for example, ReSharper for my .NET development and WebStorm for AngularJS and front-end stuff. I quickly became AppCode enthusiast when I started doing iOS work. My previous experience with JetBrains tools allowed me to actually jump fairly easily into AppCode because all the look and feel and shortcuts are very similar. Xcode being constantly developed by Apple, as we've already seen at latest WWDC, is a mature IDE that has its strengths, of course, and I'm not ditching Xcode in order to use only AppCode and vice versa, because I still use Xcode in my iOS workflow. For example, I usually use Xcode for all the end work, which is all the provisioning stuff, deployment stuff, etc. But the reason I most often use AppCode is that I really like the way JetBrains creates development environment and all the flow if it comes to creating code. So as for today, we have a 3.0.1 version, as Anastasia has already mentioned, of AppCode, which was released 9th of June. And that latest update brings some really cool features like basic Xcode 6 integration and Swift language support, which is very cool. And it's all the hype right now, so I will try to show how to actually use Swift in our project and mix it with Objective-C code. So yes, for those who are wondering if AppCode is going to support Swift, yes, it will. So let's just put that question out of the table because I already heard that a couple of times before the webinar. The very most important thing to embrace Xcode 6 integration is to, of course, to have it in beta version is actually needed. So what I'm going to present today is a simple iOS app creation in a kind of workflow I usually embrace when I create iOS apps, and let it be a simple expense tracking application because I don't know, to-do applications are already out of date. So let's just fire up AppCode and go through options which are presented at the very beginning. So here we have quick start options, which are like creating new project, open a project, checking out project from version control, configure, and some other stuff. What I would like to show you first is to how I and what kind of options do I value the most in preferences. So I go to configure section and choose preferences. And here I want to show you where to choose Xcode 6 integration, which is in a section Xcode, and here we pick Xcode 6 or 5, and if we want to embrace new features, we need to choose version 6. What's other thing to do, I usually do, is to install Key Promoter plugin, which we do here, and here we have plugins which we have available for AppCode, and if you enter Key Promoter here, the plugin will pops out, and the plugin is for user to show him how easy it is to make the very same action he does with clicks, but with only keyboard shortcuts. So for every click you make in in a menu or context menu in AppCode. If there is a shortcut available in AppCode, it will pops out the shortcut so that you will be able to remember it for the future. So that's the plugin I usually install. The other thing I do like to have configured is CocoaPods integration. That feature is available as far as I remember from since the version 2.5 of AppCode, and it's really cool because we actually don't have to go out from the IDE to bring some CocoaPods to our project. So here we just need to make sure we have a proper Ruby SDK attached, and we can just view which CocoaPods are in the repository we have connected. Other stuff I usually modify is when I'm using Objective-C, is wrapping embraces, because I really like to have methods cut into few lines and aligned with the parameters names, which is like which is that option. Let me find it. Method call arguments. I usually select wrap if long. So if the method call is very long, it cuts it into multi-line, and it's more readable in my opinion. The same I'm doing with method parameters, where in case of method declarations. Okay, so those are the most important options for me, which I usually choose. Let's just leave preferences for now, and let's create a new project. I usually start with an empty application because I like the way I have fairly empty environment and I can do in whichever direction I like. Here we can see that we are already integrated in with Xcode 6, because in application extension section we can see that we have all those new fancy features like custom keyboard extensions. But we're not going to dig into that. I'll just choose empty application and go on. So here I'll just pick some name for my project. Let it be Expenser, because it's an expenser tracking application. Oh, I have this name already taken, so Expenser, something like that maybe. Okay, and I will leave rest of the options unchanged, because those are the defaults for me. Let's go with that name. Let's oh, it's taken. Okay, let it be Spencer demo. Okay. Here we have empty environment with only files that are really needed to our project to exist. What we need to do at the very beginning is to create, of course, a view controller, which will be our main view. For that, I'm not going to use nib files or storyboards. I usually create views by my own. And in this case, for this demo purposes, I'm going to use Quick Dialogues library, which is very, very good library for creating simple forms, and you can create them very quickly. So for that, let's just use CocoaPods integration, which is under context menu on the project. And here we have CocoaPods, and create CocoaPods pod file. And here we can just specify pod files which we are going to install. So for us, it's pod quick dialog. As we can see, we will have automatic search of pods that are in CocoaPods repository. So it's easy to find the pod we need to install. And we can also specify the version which we want to install. Let it just choose the latest one, 1.0. As we can see, AppCode is asking me if I want to install a pod, because pods which it detected in my pod file are not yet installed. So of course I want to install that pod, and for this to happen, I just need to press Option Enter, and I will have my context menu with install option, and just clicking after Enter will start CocoaPod's installation. With Command O, I can bring messages pane, where I can see currently executed command. So I can see now that pod install was called, which actually installed all the pods I have in my pod file. And as we can see, Quick Dialogues has been already installed, and new target and project was added here. Okay, so as the next thing, we need to create our view controller. For that to happen, I'm going here to my folder where my project file are, and I want to create a new class, and let it be a simple class which I just call a controller. So by hitting Command N, I bring the context menu where I can pick what kind of file I want to create. So let it be a class. Let's call it with my prefix rough main view controller, and let's just leave all the other options as the defaults. And okay, so my header file and my implementation file has been created. The next thing I want to do is to inherit from a special controller which is in a Quick Dialog library, which is called Quick Dialog controller. And for this to happen, without any previous imports, I will just start typing that class name, which is Quick Dialog controller. And as we can see, it has been already detected here. I haven't done any imports by myself earlier. So let's just press that, and AppCode is asking me if he should modify search paths for user headers. Okay, well, we obviously want to do that. We might want to choose no here and just do it manually in project settings. But yes, we want to do that. And it, oh, that's wrong. And it brings automatically our import with Quick Dialog controller here. And Quick Dialog controller, okay, it should work. I don't know why it's highlighting it in red, but let's build our application to check if everything's all right. Oh, and let's just add one more header file, which is UIKit, which obviously will be needed. And let's build our application to check if everything's all right. To build the application in AppCode, we need to press Command F9. And as we can see at the very bottom, it started to build. And by Command O, I can bring messages pane and see if everything's all right. Here we go. Okay, so it looks like there are no errors. So our pod install and imports are good. So now we can proceed with creating our view. So to create our view with a Quick Dialog library, we need to call a special initializer on a super on a super class and pass it a special root element which will be created from controls from quick dialog. So let's navigate to our implementation file, which we can do by pressing Control Command up arrow, and we're here. So here we need to create an init method. To create an init method, we can of course write it manually, but we can embrace generating features of AppCode and just press Command N. The same Command N we were pressing in a project pane, but depending on the context where our cursor is, whether it's a project pane or our code, it will bring a different context menu. So here we can just pick init with, and we will have our basic init method. So here, to make use of quick dialogues, we need to call init with root initializer and pass it a root element. So let's just pass it a root element which just doesn't exist element, and it obviously will be an error here. And let's just use another feature of AppCode, which is just creating out of usage local variables. Just by pressing Option Enter, we will bring a context menu with options which are available here. And what we need to do here is to create new local variable, which is root element. Let's call it root element, and let's make it root element alloc init. And what we need this view to look like is to have a button where we will be clicking and bringing a model window where we will enter our expense. The next thing which we will need will be entry field or label field where we will be displaying a total amount of spent money, and maybe some table with most recent expenses. Let's just start with a button that will be bringing up our model window. So for this to happen, we're going to create a section alloc init of the name. Then we need the button, so that would be Q button element. Oh, as you can see, it doesn't AppCode doesn't recognize the Q button element because it wasn't imported, but it knows where to import it from. So by pressing Option Enter, we can just automatically import the Q button element header file, and everything is all right. And let's call it add expense element and be Q button alloc init with title. As you can see here, by pressing start writing a method and pressing Control space, AppCode brings out a menu with available options for what we started to type. So in this case, we want to use initializer with title, so we can easily choose it from here. And we need to pick a title here, so that let it be add title. The small thing that I really like in AppCode is that when I write a new string, I don't need to manually choose add sign. I just start typing a string, and add sign is added automatically, which is a small thing, but really neat in my opinion. Let me add expense, and that's it. As we can see, our code started in an initializer started to be really messy, or maybe it's just started to grow very quickly because I will be just defining the controls here. So let's just extract it to a different method. So by just selecting a block and choosing refactor menu and extract submenu, we have all the options available. I'm using a menu here, not a shortcut, because I want to show you how many options we have available here. So what we need to do right now is to extract a method, which is option command M. Let's just pick it from here, and just remember that we have many other options. Let's just extract a method. Let's call it let me get element, or maybe create main view layout, something like that, and extract. As you can see, we have this method extracted here, which is cool. It's a button, so what we need to do next is we need to add that button to a section, add element, add expense button, and then we need to add it to root element, section, and that's the button without any action. And let's just see if that works for us. So let's just attach our main view controller in AppDelegate. And to navigate to AppDelegate, we can use, of course, shortcut for that, which is Command O to navigate to a class name. So we can just simply start typing AppDelegate, and the menu will pops out with some results, and AppDelegate is on the very first position. So by pressing enter, we can just jump into AppDelegate. So in this place, we need to specify our controller which we want to display. So let's set root view controller, and let it be main view controller, and of course option return will brings me a context menu where I can choose create new local variable, which we already done earlier. And yes, I want to name it like this, and I want it to be wrap main view controller and alloc init. Okay, so I can import it by pressing option enter, and let's build our application, see if everything is okay. So pressing command F9, start a build. There is another. Oh, it finished. There's another shortcut for closing that message pane, which is Shift Escape. So it's easy to go out from this pane. And now let's just fire up this application in a simulator. One thing that I reminded myself of is to set some property on a root element of our new view. So let's just go to main view controller, and by pressing Command O, I bring the search box, and here I can just write, for example, MVC, which are the big camel case letters in my class main view controller. And as you can see, it has found a proper class which I want to navigate to. So by just entering MVC, I can just navigate to my main view controller. And here what I wanted to do is to set a property on a root element, which is called growth. Yes, it's just a property which will make my form look nicer. So let's just fire up our application in a simulator by pressing Control Option R. Here we have run options, and for our demo purposes, I will just pick iPhone 5 on iOS 8. As we're using Xcode 6 integration, we can run our application on iOS 8 SDK. So just press it. Let's bring messages pane and see what's happening here. Shouldn't be any errors. Should start shortly. Here we go. Okay, as you can see, we have a simple view with a button here, which is add expense, and it does work. Okay, so let's just stop our debug session by pressing. We can press that red square here, but also we can press Command F2, and our debug session will end. We can bring down the pane, which is at the very bottom, by pressing Shift Escape again. And what we need to do is to bring a model view after clicking on that button. So for that to happen, I need to specify an action on that expense element, which is a button. So let it be expense element. It's called controller action, and here and specify a string. That's the way it's implemented in a quick dialog. Let it be handle at expense pressed, and we can just create that method here, void handle at expense pressed, and pass it quick button element. Okay, what we need to do right now is to create our new view, instantiate it. So we will need to create a new class, and after that we will need to display it as a model window. So let's just use a fancy feature of AppCode by which is called create from usage. So let's just write a code which we would like to write, which would be creating a new view controller, instantiating it. Let's call it ref at expense view controller, and let's call it at expense view controller, as it's given by AppCode as a default, which is very nice. I don't need to write it, and just click enter, and I will have this name as for my local variable. And by ref, let it be ref at expense view controller alloc init. Okay, and very next thing would be to show this as a model view, which would be display view controller with presentation mode, and the view controller will be at expense view controller, and presentation mode will be Q presentation mode model form. Okay, so we need to create that class. As we already seen a couple of times, we can just use our context action here by pressing option return, and we have some options here. So now we're going to use create new class. Actually, let's create new class at expense view controller. Let's leave all the defaults here, and here we go. We need to do the very same thing as we did with previous view controller. So we need to inherit from quick dialog controller. And as we can see, the import was automatically added right now, so I actually didn't have to click anything. The thing we need as well is to import UIKit, H, okay, and we need to go to related file, which is our implementation file, by pressing Control Command arrow up, and we need to create similar functionality as in previous view controller. So that's going to be init method, which we can generate with Command N. Let's generate it. And here we stumble on the similar thing as previously. So we need to create a method which would create a root element for us. So let's just extract the thing from here. I mean, let's just move it to some helper class, which would be a static class with static methods, and we'll just put all the creating layouts methods there. So let's select this method, and from refactor menu, let's just choose move. Let's move it to a very separate file. Let's call it rough view helpers, and as simple as that, let's just move it, create new class, of course. We will have this problem detected because that method is private, so it's going to create an appropriate entry in a header file of rough view helpers object, and here we have this method moved. Let's change it to a class method. Let's go to a related file by pressing Control Command Up and change it here. Going back to main view controller, MVC, yep, we need to change this to rough view helpers. Okay, and again, import is suggested, so let's just do it. As we can see right now, we have the rough view helpers has been added here. Okay. What we need to where were we? So we needed to create a layout for our add expense view controller. So let's go to that class, add expense view controller, and let's call the init method, which we need in order to create a quick dialog view. Init with root, and here we can just call a non-existing method on our view helpers class, view helpers, which will be, well, let's just import that, option enter, and let's call it create at expense layout. Okay, it doesn't exist, so we can press Alt Enter again and create new method, and it will suggest it to be a class method, so it's okay for us. So let's just press Enter and agree what he is suggesting. And here we go. Here we have this create at expense layout method created. What we need to do right now is to create that, to implement that method. So what we need here is actually two controls. One will be for picking a category of the expense, so that would be like category food, house, transport, or whatever, kids, and then an amount of money we spent on that thing, and then we would need to have a button on which we would need to click, and we will submit that values to our storage, which will be somewhere. Okay, so let's quickly create that layout. Root element, log in it. Let it be grouped as well. Yes, let's create section. And the very first thing will be the control where we will be picking category. So in quick dialogues, it's called QRadio element. As you can see, we will have an import here by pressing Alt Enter, and we go category element QRadio element in it, and we have a couple of initializers here available. So for this to happen, we need to pick one of them suggested by the AppCode, which is init with items, selected item, and the title. As you can see, AppCode automatically wrapped this this call because it was too long, and that was the option I was checking at the very beginning of the webinar. To wrap a calls to a method which are too long, and align it with align all parameters. So here we end up with more readable code, in my opinion. So let's just create some categories, which will be food, the very first one, the second one will be transport, third one, I don't know, house, and maybe kids. And the very first one will be default one, and the title will be category. Okay, we need to add it to a section, element, category element. Then we need to create the control that will take an amount of money we spend. So this is called decimal element. And yes, we need to do an import for that. And let's call it amount element, decimal element alloc init. With title and value, let's call it amount, and value will be nil because that's just the default one. And what we need to do is next we need to specify how many fraction digits we want to have available on that field. So that's one of the properties on a QDecimal element class. So to bring out available properties of methods that we can call on QDecimal element, let's just write amount element, press a dot. I usually mix dots and method calls in Objective-C development. I usually use dots for properties call, and for methods invokes, I usually use the proper messaging pattern for method calls. So here we need to choose a fraction digits property. Let's put 2 here. Let's add this element to the section element. Okay, and the last thing which we will need will be a button element to just submit the thing. So that's the thing we already created. Submit element, Q button element alloc init with title, and call it submit. Okay, what we need to do with that is we need to specify a block of action which will happen just after click, and in that action we need to take values from the controls which we are interested in. So that's going to be category element and amount element values. So that block is specified under on select property. So let's just specify a block here that will execute, and here we need to take the values from the previously created controls. So let's just take a string value from category, and that's going to be category items category element items, and here category element selected. Okay, and the other thing will be ns number, which will be called amount, and will come from amount element and number value property. Okay, what we would like to do here next is to put this into some kind of object and send it to some service or storage or whatever. So we need to create some class that will wrap those two values and attach it, and we will need to attach it to a button element which will be handled in other method. I will just show you in a minute how to do that. But first, I will put here a to-do item, which I usually which I usually do during my workflow. So create a instance of, let's call it expense class, and put values there. And what I will need to do with that is that I will need to pass it to a submit element as an object. So as I don't have this class right now, an object, I will just pass nil here. The very neat thing with to-do items in AppCode is that wherever you write to-do in a command, it will be aggregated under a to-do list in AppCode, which we can bring up with command 6. And here we have all the to-dos that are found in our code. And as we can see here, here is our to-do, which we created at the very moment. So it's a very simple feature, but I really, really embrace it very often. So that's why I value it, and I'm showing it to you. And by just double clicking on it, we can navigate to a place where this to-do is specified. So by pressing Shift Escape, we can just go out from this to-do pane, and here we go. So we took some values from controls, and we need to create some class. Let's just fire up our simulator and see if everything's all right. So that let's just put a breakpoint here, and we'll use a debugger to see if a category and amount local variables are being set properly. So before that, we need to actually display that that layout. So we need to add that button element to a section, submit element, and we need to add that section to a root element, and we need to return root element. Okay, let's just see if our app_expense view controller sets that properly. Create app_expense layout. Okay, so it probably should work. Let's just fire up our simulator. Let's see if everything's okay. Okay, it's not okay because we created view helpers, and that thing needs UIKit. Let's do it again. Wow, again. Let's just clean it and do it again. Wow, so that's demo file, I guess. Let's see what's wrong here. A sec. Main view controller. We can clean up our imports by clicking Alt Enter on them and just clean them. And something is wrong obviously here. Let's just clean our project by pressing Command Shift K and build it again. Let's just click Command F9 and see if everything is okay. Okay, still some errors. So I probably have some mess with my imports. Let's just see if that works. For some reason, it probably imports some bad headers. QRadio element should be like that. And it should be wow. Okay, so I have demo file. Okay. It happens. Well, let's clean our clean our project again by pressing Shift Command K, and let's build it again by pressing Command F9. Here we go. Fingers crossed. Okay, only 2 errors left. Somewhere. Okay, keyword element. Okay, we can just do as it's suggesting by pressing Alt Enter. We can just predefine root element, and it should work like right now. I'll just clean it again. Let's just build it again. Bring out. Wow, 12 errors. That's not good. Okay, this is not good. Let's just go to keyword element here. Let's clean it. Let's build it. Still two errors. Sorry for that. No idea what's happening. Okay, so let's just no idea why it's doing it right now like that. Okay, let's clean it again. Okay, just build again. Oof, so no errors. Here we go. So we can now fire up our simulator and see if our values from controls are being passed properly. Let's go to add expense view controller. Oh, it wasn't here, it was in view helpers. So let's go to view helpers, and let's just hide that message, messages pane, and let's go to a place where we are stopped by the breakpoint, and let's fire up our app in a debug mode. So by pressing Control Option R, we bring a run menu where we can pick a configuration we want to run. So let's just run a debug session, and let's hope it's everything's okay. And here we go. Here is our simulator, and let me check the time. It's 10 minutes left, so I will get into Swift right now. Let's click Add Expense, and as we can see, we have a model view where we can just pick some category, enter some amount, 45.56, and click Submit. And we will end up here, which is good. And as we can see here, AppCode is collecting data about our local variables. And here we can easily see what are the values of our local variables. So category and amount are of our interest. So we can see here that values are proper because we choose transport and we choose that amount of money. So this is okay. And that's the thing that usually that differs much from Xcode, because when I was developing in Xcode 5 and earlier, it was not that easy to view values of local variables. It was very tricky. We need to write PO in a console to view some variables and do some tricks. And here we can just easily drill down through the local variables and see the values which are inside. So this is pretty cool. The other things are like watches, which are one of the common features of Debugger, and we can set some watches here. And also we have this frames pane here, which are showing how what is the call stack of our current current method. Okay, so let's just stop that debug session by pressing Command F2, and let's do something with that to-do item. Let's bring it down. Command 5, Shift, Escape. Let's create a class which will gather those two variables. And for that, I was planning to use a Swift, because as we already know, there's this new cool language which is available for iOS development, which is, well, for some of us maybe way cooler than Objective-C, for some of us not. But one thing is sure is that we can mix those two words with themselves. So here, for example, I can just specify a class in Swift and use it in Objective-C code, and I will show you how. One thing I want to express here is that in current version of AppCode, the support for Swift language is very basic. So it boils down actually to just compiling them, added the possibility to add those kind of files, and syntax coloring. So there are no other like navigation refactoring features for Swift yet, but it's usable. I'm going to show you how. So let's just go to, by pressing Command 1, let's go to a project pane, and by pressing Command N, let's bring up the context menu. We need to choose File from Xcode template here to bring out the pop-up window with file templates from Xcode. And here, as we can see, we can pick Swift file. Let's do this. Let's call it, well, it should be a class, a simple class, which will accommodate our two values. So let's call it just graph expense, and leave all the other fields as a default. And here we go. We have a very empty Swift file. So what we need to do here is to create a class, which will be class graph expense, and we need to inherit from NS object, because we will be calling that from Objective-C code, and we will need to call alloc class method. So we need NS object as a base class. The other thing we need is our two properties. First will be category of type string, and the second one will be amount of type, let it be double. And the very next and last thing for now will be init method, which will take category of type string, of course, and amount of type double. Okay, and here we can just category We don't have code completion here as well. So this Swift support is really, really basic, but it does work. So we can just start writing Swift with current AppCode and wait for further updates to have some more features. Okay, so it's as simple as that because we need a simple class. Maybe let's just compile it to see if Swift file is being compiled. Command F9, bring the messages pane, and we can see here at the very bottom that the compile Swift action is executed. So it does actually compile the Swift files. Here you go, build finished without any errors. So that's a good sign. Then we can just bring this Swift class to our Objective-C code. The place where we wanted to use it was in view helpers. So let's go there, view helpers. Okay, and let's bring down the pane by Shift Escape. Let's go here. Okay, so we can just delete that to do. And what we need to do in order to use Swift classes in Objective-C code, we need to import the specific header file, which is called as a product module name, which in our case is expenser demo -swift H. That's the way that Apple defined in order to use Swift classes in Objective-C code. It's colored red here because it's not supported in AppCode, I mean visually, but this header file is generated automatically by compiler, so it's going to be there and it's going to be imported, so nothing to worry about. And after that, we can just use that class. And again, we don't have code support for that. I mean, no code completion and checking if that class already exists because it's basic right now. But we can actually use it. Graph expense alloc init with category and amount, which will be NS number, and then there we need a double, so we need to call it like this. Okay. And then we can just pass it here. Okay, let's maybe just compile it and see if everything's all right. So Command F9. Let's see and hope it's all right. Zero errors. So as you can see, the Swift code was compiled properly and was imported properly. So now we have this expense object. Let me check the time. Oh, it's don't know when we are going to stop, but let me finish that. So we now have this object from Swift class defined, and we can pass it to submit element. The next thing we need to do is to define controller action, handle submit pressed. That's going to happen in our add expense view controller. Void handle submit pressed. And here, okay, we need that. I don't like that message. Let's just import Q button element H, and let's just see. Let's just see if the object is passed properly. Element, object. Let's put a breakpoint here, and let's run it in a debug. And let's see if Swift is supported in runtime. Okay, here we go. We landed in a very good place. Let's just search for an object property. As we can see here, we have a rough expense object instance. So it's created properly. We don't have a support for viewing the values here, but we can grab the values from that method. And as you can see, it was some kind of temporary class was created for that, and it has been passed here. So I think the 1 hour is left. I wasn't able to show you all the demo I have, but the very next thing I wanted to show you was how to write Objective-C unit tests in XC test framework and to test Swift code there by Objective-C code. So the integration between Swift and Objective-C is already there, so we can start writing iOS 8 applications in AppCode, and all the features that were available in previous AppCodes, like code completions, automatic imports, code formatting, generation, extracting methods, and all that stuff are already there. So that was pretty much it I wanted to show you.
Okay, so thank you for presenting, Rafal. We have several questions, so if you don't mind, I will ask them to you. So first of all, we have several questions about the interface builder in the app code, if it has one, or what's the options, and so whatever.
Yes.
So could you tell us a little bit more?
Okay, interface builder isn't in my primary workflow when I create iOS application, but as I'm aware, since AppCode 3.0, the interface builder is already there, and it does support lib files and storyboards. So we can actually jump in and create and modify them directly in AppCode. I'm not an expert in creating views using those technologies, so I can't tell how advanced options are there. So the answer is yes, it is available, but I don't know how many specifics are there.
Okay, so thank you. So everyone who just want to try can try it in the 3.0 trial version, or just to evaluate the interface builder that is called the UI designer in the AppCode case. So there is also one more question about code formatting. It's how to have same code formatting with Xcode and AppCode. Maybe I will help you here myself just and answer that. Right now you can just tune all the formatting options in the code style menu that Rafal has already shown to you. And we also have a feature request in our tracker about just porting all the formatting options from the Xcode to the AppCode. I can even maybe tell you the number. It's 9305, so it's import Xcode settings. We've already done the color schemes and key mapping, and hope we'll do the formatter a little bit later. So you can vote for it if it's important for you. One more question maybe to you, Rafal, is you have shown us the Command N option, and you've said that there is a various context available and then the various options available with this shortcut. Maybe you can tell more about the available options, what you can generate with this Command N shortcut.
I'm sorry, the connection is poor right now, so if I heard the question properly.
Okay, so just the question is, what are the available options for the command and shortcut? So you have generated a method with it. What else we can just generate with this shortcut?
Command N.
Yeah.
Well, basically what we can do is generate very standard things that are on our base class, I suppose. And what else we can do is we can implement or override methods which are specified in the protocols or base class which you inherit from. And also we can declare some members. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, and I can add here that you can also generate the target from the 3.0 version in the project settings. If you send command N, you can generate a new target, and you can also generate some methods for the unit tests and all that stuff also.
Yes, I didn't have time to dig into unit tests, but yes, it's since 3.0 we can generate some stuff in unit testing. Yes.
And maybe the last question, there was some question about your demo, about the purpose for the helper class. Maybe you can assist here. So what was the purpose for the helper class?
Well, the helper class was there to show actually the functionality of creating classes and methods for create from usage and then moving it in our code base from one file to another, extracting it. So that was the only purpose, just for demo purposes, to just show the features of AppCode.
Thank you. So I think we're done with the questions. If something is left and I just missed it, I will try to answer a little bit later via the email. So, and right now a little more about useful information. So just a minute. So here you can see just a piece of useful information. If you would like to know more about AppCode, just go to jetbrains.com/appcode. So feel free to provide any feedback to Rafal or JetBrains via our AppCode support email. And as I said, the video recording of the webinar will be available in a couple of days on our JetBrains YouTube channel, and we'll announce it via our social media and blog. So thanks for everyone for joining us today. If you'd like to learn more about upcoming webinars, just subscribe to our Twitter. We will be happy to have you next time for the webinars. So thank you and develop with pleasure.
Thank you very much.